Wow, what an eventful weekend it has been. In this video, I'm going to show you the strange alliances that are forming between the DA, the MK, the EFF, and even SASCO. And if you stay until my biblical reaction, you would have gotten quite a picture of the forces that have been placed in motion, and maybe have a video that you can share with any student that you know and ask them, do you know about this? Are you getting involved with this? Are you ready? Okay, press like, let's go. So you know that President Ramaphosa fired Whitfield. Straight after that, the leader of the DA, John Steenhuisen, went into parliament, embarrassed his boss, the president, and also gave a 48-hour ultimatum. Now that you fired Whitfield, fire all the corrupt and incompetent ministers within 48 hours or less. When Ramaphosa fired Whitfield, he had also said it's none of anybody's business why I fired him. After Steenhuisen's fiery speech in parliament, President backtracked, gave an explanation. Okay, let me explain why I fired him. It's because of this and that. So that was followed by the DA saying, 48 hours comes, we are coming out with a media conference. They say three things. Now that you've missed our 48-hour deadline, number one, we're pulling out of the national dialogue until, number two, you fire all of the corrupt ministers. Number three, we're not voting for any corrupt minister's budget. And finally, we are now considering and toying with the idea of a motion of no confidence. What most people don't know, and I just found out later, is that before Steenhuisen went up to give his fiery parliament speech, in this video right here, the eloquent spokesperson of the DA had written a red-hot letter to the president. Dear Mr. President, it's time to fire Minister Nkabane with immediate effect. An open letter from the DA. Dear Mr. President, the past weeks have revealed a series of lies to Parliament by Minister Nkabane. She has used a strategy of lying to Parliament to try and cover up her tracks after she made a brazen ANC cadre deployment appointment to the boards of the seaters. South Africans were rightfully outraged by this. Once exposed and once public pressure mounted, Minister Nkabane made an effective admission to her infringements by withdrawing the appointments. Her ANC cadre deployment, do you pick up the venom in this letter? Her ANC cadre deployment had been exposed, roundly criticized, and she had to admit defeat. What followed was a series of lies. Her first lie to Parliament, to underplay her own involvement, was that an independent panel had chosen the successful ANC cadres, deflecting attention from her. But the vague and evasive explanation demanded details, names, and identities. Minister Nkabane was put on terms to come clean to Parliament and to declare to the committee about who sat on this independent panel. And in her reply, she again lied. For a second time, she lied to Parliament. Minister Nkabane abused the name of a senior legal expert, Advocate Terry Mutau, claiming that he chaired her independent panel. Advocate Mutau exposed that Minister Nkabane was not telling the truth, and since then Nkabane has publicly declared that she was wrong about Mutau. The other panel members were absolutely not independent either. Some are on the payroll of her department, and two are even political appointments, including a chief of staff in the office of the minister. And worse, Minister Nkabane continues to hide the name of one member of the panel. What she has to hide with this one name is now on the highest suspicion. Mr. President, you have a lying minister in your cabinet who has been caught red-handed. It is time for you to fire Nobuhle Nkabane with immediate effect and to replace her with a minister committed to take higher education seriously and take it forward, and not to making work for ANC insiders. Yours in public service, Karabo Khakao. So, this had already come out. Now, as the DA has put pressure on the ANC to say, we are not involved until all the corrupt ministers are gone, well, unusual alliances have shown up.
The South African Students' Congress is calling for the immediate removal of the Higher Education Minister, Nobuhle Nkabane. They are the third organization this week to call for the minister's axing after the EFF and the DA. Nkabane has been embroiled in allegations of corruption as well as the illegal appointments of the SETA board. Bule. Now, please tell me, SASCO is the latest organization to call for the axing of the Higher Education Minister, Nobuhle Nkabane. What do you make of that?
Democratic Alliance also called on the president to follow suit and do the same thing, along other ministers as well. But of course, SASCO has highlighted and expressed a litany of issues that has prompted them to say they're calling for the head of the Minister of Higher Education. I'm not joined by the president of the organization. He joins me right now. You're calling for the immediate removal of the minister. What's the deadline there? 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours? This is not the first time we've heard this call. How will you ensure that, this demand is taken into consideration?
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Look, we want the immediate removal of Minister Nkabane. There's no deadline to it. The only deadline we've presented, for instance, in our brief, as taken by the National Executive Committee of SASCO, is the deadline up until we usher in the day of reckoning. So that's the deadline we have. But Mr. Nkabane has to be removed now. She's incompetent. She has to be removed now. Now.
Let's go into the day of reckoning. This is mass action. If by this week you have no response, then the minister is still in office, when will we see this mass action taking place?
Yes, as you have heard in our plan, that we are going to start to go and consolidate students. Remember that students are on recess currently after mid-year exams. So once they get back on campus, we are going to do students' mass meetings so that we mobilize them.
So the ANC-aligned SASCO is jumping on one of the ministers that the DA has demanded be fired. Who would have thought such an alliance could have ever shown up? But that's not all. Remember, the DA said, we are considering a motion of no confidence.
Mkhonto Wesizwe Party has welcomed the DA's threat to call for a vote of no confidence against President Cyril Ramaphosa.
They've stated categorically and consistently so that the man is not fit for the job. In actual fact, we've been calling for a motion of confidence ourselves. What would be interesting to see is if we call for a motion of no confidence, if the DA would vote with us. Because again, from what I heard when you listened to their presser this afternoon, it just, you can't go and give a president an ultimatum and then you come back with very cheap, shots. And I mean, quite honestly, if you look at it, it's nothing more than just scarecrow politics. And that's what the DA is doing here. They're just nothing else but scarecrows. If they're serious, they should call for a motion of no confidence and stop these scarecrow tendencies. And we can then, realize that they're actually serious about what their stance is on this president.
Right, so the MK is daring the DA. Come on, call a vote of no confidence. We'll support you. Now, the MK is not alone in calling for a vote of no confidence. Many people, even on the side of the DA, feel the DA should have just left the GNU. Instead, the DA only then started a campaign to operate as an internal opposition inside of cabinet. Should they have stepped out of the government of national unity? Well, listen.
Let's perhaps start with the very latest developments around the GNU and what we saw unfold over the last few days. Your thoughts on the DA opting to stay within the GNU despite the many grievances that they seem to have against not just the president but the ANC as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, the DA, of course, is in a very difficult position. It's both within the GNU, so it's got to act like a government partner, but it's also got to hold the ANC to account, and that's what its voters elected it to do. And in fact, that's what most South Africans wanted to do. Our survey shows that nearly 3/4 of South Africans are unhappy with the direction of the economy. Over half are very unhappy, but that nearly 2/3 think that the GNU is performing better than any previous government. So the DA has a responsibility to voters. It doesn't just have a responsibility to the ANC. And I think the way in which they've gone about this latest, because there have been several moments of anguish in this relationship, this latest kerfuffle has really been quite mature. It's essentially said we're not going to leave because it's in the interests of South Africa that we don't leave. It's in the interests of the radicals, the populists, that we do and that we blow this up. So we're not going to do that. But we are going to hold the ANC accountable, particularly those corrupt ministers, by not allowing them a free pass on their budgets. And we're going to withdraw from the national dialogue because I think it says, quite rightly in my opinion, that this is just a conversation between the choir, people who already agree with each other. It's not particularly representative of civil society. It's really a bunch of people in a very expensive format, which is going to achieve very little.
Yep, I tend to agree. So I think the DA did well. It's just such a pity that the other good parties, the right parties, parties that could take this country to prosperity, seem to be pretty quiet. Parties that were promising to be good, to be right, have just turned out to be racist, just like the rest of the racist parties that think very low of black people, like the ANC, EFF, MK. So I think the DA has done well. Now, here's how they approached it. You know, the empty-headed cause conflict out of pride, but those who take advice are wise. Riches gotten quickly will dwindle, but those who acquire them gradually become wealthy. I think what they did after the 48-hour ultimatum is this. Rather than go for spectacle, which many people probably wanted them to, they went for systematic, because they actually launched a campaign that will continually undercut the ANC, and that is good for South Africa. That's my thought. Let me hear yours at the bottom. Anyway, no man can serve two masters. Either you love the one or hate the other, or you'll despise the one and honor the other. You cannot serve God and Karl Marx, because God created good, bad, right, wrong, successful, failure. And Karl Marx came with black, white, apartheid, not apartheid, revolutionary, counter-revolutionary. You cannot serve God, but good is winning, right will win, South Africa will prosper.